Okay, so today's live, I'd like to discuss the cost of heartbreak. We can't always know what the cost of heartbreak will be, so few. I'm just going to run through a few things. So the cost of heartbreak. There's different types of heartbreak to start off with. I've been heartbroken before. I'm not ashamed to say I've been heartbroken before, and grief can be heartbreak. Okay, having somebody pass away can be a source of heartbreak. You may have a loved pet, and having the pet taken away, or you having to leave the pet, that can be heartbreak. Obviously, relationships, that's also a source of heartbreak. Some people may have desires or plans their whole childhood, their whole life, and some people, when they come to the realization that they're they're never going to live their dream, that can be a heartbreak. Also, there can be betrayal by friends, by family. That can also be heartbreak, and also long distance situations can be heartbreak. So, just to start off with, there are different types of heartbreak, not necessarily romantic. It can be, as I said, it can be family, it can be friends, it can be pets, it can be, you know, desires and plans, ambitions, dreams. Heartbreak can come in different forms, grief as well. So there are so many different types of heartbreak. What I want us to look at is what can actually be the cost of a broken heart. The first cost is your health. So, actually, let me just say that in regards to heartbreak, you have to consider how much you're willing to pay. No sound? Oh, okay, thank you. Hi Jared. So somebody said there's no sound. Can somebody else confirm? Are you unable to hear me at all? Are you able to hear? Okay, I'll just continue. So, heartbreak can be. One moment. One moment. There should be sound. Oh, Jared, you can hear me. Okay, thank you. So today is to discuss the cost of a broken heart. Okay, so as I said before, heartbreak. You have to know what you're willing to pay. So we're not always in that frame of mind, but it's helpful if you understand what you're willing to pay in regards to heartbreak. Heartbreak can cost you your health. Heartbreak can cost you your mental health as well as your physical health. Heartbreak can cost you your reputation. Heartbreak can cost you your emotional emotional being, and heartbreak can also cost you your future. Okay, so what I want to start off with, as I just said, is there are different types of heartbreak. So there can be grief when someone passes away. There can be heartbreak when you have a dream or you have an ambition and you come to the realization that you will never step into what you had planned in your destiny. So that can be a heartbreak. Another heartbreak can be in your friendships. Heartbreak can be betrayal. Heartbreak can be so many things to different people. So the first cost of heartbreak can be emotional. So that would be your well-being. In some relationships, it's possible to lose your self-esteem, to lose your self-confidence, just to lose yourself in some relationships. And so that can be a cost. Okay, so the cost can be who you are, the confidence you have, your emotions. That can be a cost. Also, as well, another cost can be your motivation and your social interactions with people. So when some people, for an example, when some people are grieving, they may withdraw from social interactions, they may isolate themselves, and they just may break their usual routines. So they become a shadow of their former self. That can be the case when people are grieving. Um, Another cost be can be your coping mechanisms. So some people may take, in order to cope with heartbreak, some people can take up some coping mechanisms that aren't very healthy. Some people can start to self-medicate. So whether this be through drinking or drugs or different habits, in order to, it's like the it's like the relationship that they've had, they replace it with something else. So if they felt they were obsessed by someone or addicted to somebody, hi Wayne from New Zealand, yeah, some people can replace it with things that are quite destructive. Okay, so in regards to what heartbreak can cost you, it's helpful if you can try and remember who you are going into the relationship. Obviously, when you're grieving, that's totally different, because grief can be sudden, and it can be, it's so final. There's nothing you can do when you're grieving. But in regards to relationships or friendships, just try and keep a part of yourself whole. So try not to put your confidence in that person. Basically try not to put all your eggs in one basket. Basically, that's what you should try and do. But we always forget to do that because we always go all in. But actually, that can go left quite quickly. In regards to heartbreak, it's good to lean into it. So a lot of the time, we want to run away from suffering. We want to run away from pain. We want to run away from any type of discomfort. But sometimes we need to actually lean into what it is that we feel. So there was a survey done. I don't have all the statistics, but it was found that women take breakups very badly, but in the long run, they cope better. And so, in regards to the way some males and some females may deal with heartbreak, some males seem to overcompensate and behave as if they're fine, but in the long run, you start to see the ramifications of the heartbreak. Whereas women, short term, seem to be seem to be in a lot more pain, seem to be visibly a lot more upset and broken by heartbreak, but in the long run, they do manage it a lot better. So there's a lot to be said for experiencing negative emotions, as long as it's not destructive. But there's a lot to be said for leaning into the heartbreak and actually allowing yourself to actually go through the necessary processes of getting over the circumstances. Another element of heartbreak is acceptance. Lots of us don't like to accept heartbreak. Lots of us are in denial. However, at times, the quicker we can accept well, actually, let me take that back. It doesn't need to be quick. It just needs to be in your own time. But as long as you go at your own pace of acceptance, that that should be comfortable for you. In states of grieving, seeing a counsellor is recommended. I'm not a professional counsellor, I'm not professional. However, I do believe that therapy or seeing a counsellor, or it may be a religious figure in your life, whichever religion that may be, or just a role model, somebody that's able to speak to you, listen, allow you to hurt and perhaps put things in perspective. In regards to heartbreak, it does take time. I remember one of my earliest heartbreaks, believe it or not, was when I was a child and my dog died. I was born in Ghana and I had a dog. I named the dog Mingle, and that dog used to go everywhere with me. And most importantly, that dog used to eat the food I didn't like. So that dog would get me out of a lot of trouble. And when that dog died, it was really painful. Getting older, getting into relationships. I remember one of my first few relationship heartbreaks, and I remember actually feeling like I wanted to take pain relief, like painkiller, because I didn't realize that the the heartbreak could feel so real, and I actually contemplated taking paracetamol to help with the pain. But one thing I will say, in the way I deal with heartbreak personally, is I usually lean into it, accept it, but I don't allow it to disrupt my. I don't allow it to disrupt. I'll give you an example. So some people may go into a relationship at work. Okay, so some people, they may go in a relationship with their manager or with their colleague or with somebody they work with, and if the relationship goes sour, it can affect their place of work, and they may not look forward to going into work, or they may start skipping work or calling in sick because they don't want to see that person, or that person's moved on. So number one, that heartbreak has disrupted your well-being. But number two, because it's in your place of work, it has potential to disrupt your financial responsibilities. And so we need to make sure that any type of heartbreak does not get in the way of our finances, of our mental well-being, and of our physical well-being. Even though you don't really think like that when you're in those circumstances, but if you just try and ask yourself, what can I afford to pay? What can I afford to pay? Can I afford to pay for this heartbreak with my mental health? Can I afford to pay for this heartbreak with my job, with my finances, with my confidence, with my self-esteem? Some people, you know, we, depending on what type of life you've had, some people, grief is, they have been through grief countless times. Some people haven't been through grief at all, and some people may have been through grief, but at a distance, maybe not somebody very close to them. And as we can all see, people handle grief very, very differently. Obviously, if you know somebody that's grieving, if you begin to see them neglect their personal hygiene or their financial responsibilities, or they start to lack motivation, that's where I feel like people would intervene, or just look out for them or refer them for counseling, because we understand that the priority is the priority is, when it comes to heartbreak, you need to have yourself as a priority. Okay, you need to prioritize your physical health, your mental health, your confidence, your self-esteem, and your dignity as well. You need to prioritize your dignity. So even though we don't ask ourselves in the moment, when we do go through a heartbreak, it's helpful to ask ourselves, what am I willing to pay? What am I willing to pay? What am I willing to sacrifice? Because if your mental health and your emotional well-being and your physical health and your financial responsibilities is not worth the heart, then try and put things in perspective and not sacrifice those things, even though, yes, it's easier said than done. Okay, so in regards to heartbreak, what can be useful is if you find a positive replacement. So that means that if you've had a heartbreak and you're out of sync, perhaps you got into a routine and now you're in a heartbreak, try and find a new routine to replace the old routine. So that could be joining the gym, or that could be joining an arts class, or that could be writing poems, or it could be gardening. Or one of the things I like to do is when I go through different things in life, maybe buy a plant, or depending on what country you're in, you can plant a tree as a marker. So despite what you're going through, you can still see growth in that plant or in that tree. So that's something productive that you can do. But definitely find positive replacements. It could be exercise, it could be learning a new language, it could be joining a club, getting a new hobby, going outside of your comfort zone, doing new things. So try and find a positive replacement. Another thing you can do is in heartbreak, try and gain perspective, and that can be really difficult to gain perspective, and it's so easier said than done. However, you do need to understand that you will love again. You will love again. There is hope. This isn't the end. Okay, there's so much more for you, and you have so much more to offer someone else. So another helpful thing to do in the midst of heartbreak is to try and gain perspective. It can be young going through heartbreak it can be difficult going through heartbreak when you're young, because you may have planned your whole future, or you may have seen your future in a particular way. And so sometimes it can be hard going through heartbreak when you're young, because you've already visualized your life a certain way. But just know that plans can be changed, things can be reviewed, and life goes on. Okay, so just be encouraged in that. Definitely, life goes on, things will change, and what you're feeling now potentially may not feel as bad in time. Yeah. Okay. In regards to your health and heartbreak, some people lose their appetite and they start to eat less. So some heartbreak can cause you to eat less. Some people, heartbreak causes you to eat more. Heartbreak can cause you to lose your sleep. Heartbreak can cause you to sleep a lot more, and you can become demotivated and want to sleep all the time. Heartbreak can also, you know, physically give you migraines or trigger headaches. Depending on if the situation was toxic, it can give you high blood pressure. It can also release stress hormones or give you heart issues. So heartbreak can do all those things. So it's really important to try and offset it by maybe exercising or finding fun things to do. In regards to exercising, people always recommend doing that because, as we all know, exercising releases endorphins, which make you feel good. Also, if you do start to exercise, it can be motivating and it can increase your confidence as you begin to look healthier and healthier. It is difficult to move on when it comes to heartbreak now, because you're still able to see the person on social media, and if they move on, you're able to see how, it's just difficult now with social media, because it can be hard to just focus on yourself and continue. Some people like to Some people like to discard any items that reminds them of that person, whether that be gifts or, places that you used to go together with that person, or mutual friends. Some people try and remove those factors to help them get over that person. But I'm the opposite. I'm totally the opposite. I mean, if I receive a gift, I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. Obviously, depending on what it is, but I believe in keeping gifts, and also as well, I believe in keeping friends. I do believe that if you have mutual friends, um, depending on what type of friendship you all have, you should still keep friends. I promise you that wasn't my husband telling me to get off live. But yeah, as I was saying, when it comes to gifts, I keep gifts. And when it comes to friends, I keep friends. Definitely keep friends. And if I got to know families, I still stay in touch with families, um, if they're open to. But I personally don't believe in just cutting people off or getting rid of gifts. But everybody should do what they're comfortable doing. Obviously, everybody do what they are comfortable doing. Um, Also, there's different types of heartbreak. Depending on the circumstance. So heartbreak where there's infidelity involved is very different, because if there is infidelity involved, it can be a dagger in your soul, you know? It can be a dagger in your soul if there's infidelity involved. So that type of heartbreak, I've seen it happen, you know, and it goes to the core of who you are. It can go to the core of your confidence. It can go to the core of your self-esteem. So that's a different type of heartbreak, but you just need to give yourself time. You need to be around positive people. You need to change friends if necessary. Um, some people, in order to cope with heartbreak, they're out there, like they are outside. Some people, seriously, to cope with heartbreak, they are outside, and so if that's the way they feel like it's the only way they can cope with it, then fair enough. With myself, in order to cope with heartbreak, I would give myself time alone. That's one of the ways I would deal with it, just to give myself time alone. So obviously you wouldn't be on the rebound, etc. But some people, that's how they cope, and that's what they're fine with. And if that's how they see fit to deal with that type of issue, then fair enough. Some people move on very quickly. Some people look for substitutes. Some people look for replacements. And people just do what you're comfortable with. Obviously, that isn't something that I would do. I would usually have a period of staying alone just to recenter myself. However, if that's what people are comfortable doing, then they should do what's right for them. Um, I do believe it's important not to make life-changing decisions while in a heartbreak, but some people decide to make life decisions. An example of that is some people, while they're grieving or while they're heartbroken or while they've just left a relationship, might decide to travel to a different country, you know, might decide to go to a different country, start again, sell all those possessions and move away. That's how some people decide to deal with heartbreak. And as long as it's safe and as long as financially you stay secure, yes, it can be a good idea. But however, I personally am of the opinion that while going through heartbreak, it's best not to make any major life decisions. But that's just an opinion. People may feel differently. In regards to heartbreak, I would say be aware that you may be vulnerable during that period, and just perhaps have somebody that you can talk to that can perhaps look out for you. So if I'm going through a heartbreak, my reference points may be slightly skewed, and my decision making may not be as measured as pre-heartbreak. So sometimes it's good to at least have somebody that you can be open to and admit how you're feeling, and you know, I mean, some heartbreak can end with people getting back together, yeah. Not always, and that's the fine line, because some people may be in denial during heartbreak and believe that, despite this broken heart, things can be rectified. I'm not going to move on, they're not going to move on, and then a heartbreak can be further compounded when one person does move on, actually. So it's a fine line, because in some circumstances, people do get back together. People do get back together. So that can be one outcome of heartbreak. People decide that the heartbreak outweighed any benefit of being apart and get back together. So it's just a fine line of not being delusional, I guess. If it's a situation where people are constantly breaking up, getting back together, breaking up, getting back together, that can be worrying. So if it's a situation where the heartbreak is a constant cycle of back and forth together, not together, break up, make up, break up, make up. If it's a constant cycle, and it makes you feel disorientated, that might be something to consider. But if you're happy with that type of, if you're happy with constantly being in and out of a relationship with somebody, obviously that's up to you. Everybody goes through heartbreak, honestly. Everybody goes through heartbreak. Another type of heartbreak is the death of a dream. It's when you have a goal, like maybe a lifelong goal, an ambition, a desire, huge plans, and you realize that it isn't going to come to fruition. That can be another type of heartbreak. So if somebody's planning to be a footballer, and they've been, in training since they were a child, and perhaps their parents have invested lots of money in their ambition to become a footballer or an athlete or a musician, and lots of money has been spent on them by their parents or family members or significant other, and lots of investment has been made, and then perhaps maybe the person has injury after injury, or perhaps the person doesn't meet the physical requirements, or the person misses a gap, just misses that season of entering into that destiny. For some people, that is a grieving process. For some people, that is a heartbreak. Just having that huge ambition and realizing that it will never come to pass. It could be down to health. It could be down to finances. It could just be down to age or circumstance. So that's another death of the dream. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so just in speaking to people's plans, um for women it might be different things. For men it might be different things, or it might all be the same things. You know, people may have had plans of having a family, and maybe due to age or time, that hasn't come to pass. You know, thankfully we have things like IVF, but it may not be as straightforward as that. People may have plans of settling down with the right person, getting married to somebody that they love, that loves them, and slowly by slowly they may realize that that dream may never come to fruition. It may be buying a home, it may be owning a business. It may be it could be so many different things, where people have planned to do these things from a very young age, have invested so greatly, and they've realized that it will never come to pass. I understand in athletics there may be a age barrier for different things. Yeah, so in sports, in athletics, there is an age barrier, or there's different criterias to meet, and also finances. And so in sports, in that type of arena, you know, ambitions can be lost, and that can be the death of a dream. And what we can try to do is not combine our self-worth and not combine our confidence in our plans and ambitions, even though that's very, very hard to do. In those circumstances, it's important to look at our other qualities and our other talents and our other skills that we can choose to showcase. In regards to heartbreak, we need to look at different triggers, and so going to going to particular places may trigger the heartbreak. Seeing different people may trigger the heartbreak, or doing different things. So if you are in an environment that triggers you on any type of heartbreak, maybe consider creating new habits, new patterns, new places to frequent. In regards to grief, it's I personally feel like it's important to lean into it. So whether that be paying your respects, speaking about that person with other people that knew them. I personally don't believe that when you're grieving, you should never speak about that person. You know, I believe we can still choose to celebrate somebody's life even after they've gone, and talk about memories we've had with them, and talk about things that they used to do, or how they may find things now. So by paying your respects, or perhaps doing different things where you know that person is honored, or talking to different people about that person, that can be quite helpful when grieving. Also, counseling is very good as well. Counseling can be very useful. So what I would say is, in regards to heartbreak, in knowing how much heartbreak would cost, let's ask ourselves, how much are we willing to pay? You know, how much are we willing to pay for this heartbreak? Am I willing to pay with my emotional well-being? Am I willing to pay in my finances? Am I willing to pay in my confidence, in my health? You know, so we just need to know how much we're willing to pay when it comes to heartbreak, and being able to make boundaries so we don't end up paying what we can't afford. I just want to say to people that are going through heartbreak and finding it really difficult, you will be okay. You will be fine. You know, you will be fine and it's going to be okay. It does help to gain perspective. So if you can perhaps start a new hobby, make new friends, create new routines, maybe start swimming. I still can't swim, but I always go swimming and it's embarrassing. But I have my floats, or I have like a noodle, or like a I have no shame when I go swimming. You know, I'm still trying to learn how to swim. But when I'm swimming, it just takes my mind off things. So swimming, if anybody's interested, is very useful in your well-being and just exercise and, you know, benefiting yourself by doing something productive. I also want to say that we can all learn about ourselves when going through heartbreak. We can all learn about ourselves a bit better if we lean into it. We can just see how much we can grow from the experience. It can make us have more empathy for other people. It can make us a lot more patient with other people by understanding that people are going through so many different things that we're not aware of. If anybody watching today is going through heartbreak and you're finding it difficult, just know that you will come out on the other side. It may take time. I mean, we're never able to give a time frame, which is one of the most frustrating things, because we don't know how long we will feel this way. But time, just take it one day at a time. Take it one day at a time, put one foot in front of the other, and you will get through this, honestly. It's important not to give up. It's very important not to give up. It's very important not to let it overtake you. Try not to let it overtake you. That's the most important thing. It reminds me of what I heard years ago, and I don't know why I still remember it. But me and my friends, we were told that if you're ever caught up in a whirlpool, I know, but if you're ever caught up in a whirlpool, where some people go wrong is they try and swim against it. So apparently, when people are caught in a whirlpool, they try and swim against it. They try and, get out of it. They're swimming against the current. They're using all their strength to just try and swim against the whirlpool. And then what happens is they become tired, and the fatigue is oftentimes what causes them to, it takes them out. We were always taught, if you're ever caught in a whirlpool, to allow it to take you down. To allow it to take you down, and once you get to the bottom, you swim from out underneath it. That's what we were taught. So if you're ever caught in a whirlpool, allow it to take you all the way down and then swim from underneath it. And I think heartbreak is similar to that. Just lean into it. Just lean into it and then get out from under it, But you will be okay. That's the end of my live. Please like my live and subscribe. Thank you.